Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Conche, for those who don't know me. It's a wonderful day. It's a wonderful day. I know you like it that side, but this side is not too hot, it's not cool, it's just perfect. Yeah, today we're gonna go through some stories about Julius Malema. I won't spill the beans now. All I can say now is Julius Malema was confronting the judge there about some stories there. The judge apparently wrote the article and so on. But let me just put the video there for you guys to go through and enjoy the show, because that's the only way you understand. And, I don't want to be a party spoiler. A spoiler, what do you call it? It's a spoiler if I'm not mistaken. All right, here we go.
The court concluded that the construction of the wall, along with measures taken previously, severely impeded the exercise by the Palestinian people of its right to self-determination and was thus a breach of Israel's obligation to respect that right. This conclusion had followed a finding that the creation of this wall was tantamount to a de facto annexation. That is 2004. Now, come 2019, you write an article. Your article which says creating a different future for Israel and Palestinians. Are you aware of that? You remember that article?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
I want us to talk briefly on that. And correct me if I'm wrong. The impression I get from the article is two. First, you criticize the comparison of the actions by the Israel government with those.
Sorry, Commissioner Nojesi, I assume that that's an article that's in the bundle.
Yes.
Okay,
that's an article. Yes. That's
Okay.
an article. In fact,
Chief Justice, I'm not sure if it's in the bundle, but I just want to put on record that we did give Professor Bilchik's notice that questions will be asked about his article.
Okay, no, that's all right then. Thank you.
now, in the article, in parts, this is what you say. You say, this is what, this is an observation. You criticize the comparison of the actions by the Israel government with those of apartheid South Africa. You describe the comparison as nonsense if one considers the different origins of the conflict. Were you aware of this decision of the ICJ of 2004? Because in the judgment, you simply make not even a single reference to it.
Commissioner, I'm very willing to answer questions about issues and my prior writings relating to Israel-Palestine. I would, though, like a direction from the Chief Justice if this is appropriate for me to do so. I am aware that the former Chief Justice was disciplined by the Judicial Conduct Committee for expressing views relating to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And I am currently a sitting judge of the Constitutional Court, and I've taken the view, ever since I knew I was an acting judge, I have expressed no view on any conflict that involves foreign policy, that involves the domain of the executive, and I've tried to conduct myself in that way. I am very happy to defend what I said and what my views are, but I'm also not sure that I'm entitled to do so. So I will ask for direction from the Chief Justice in that regard, and if I'm permitted to answer your question, I will do so.
Yeah. No, just before the Chief Justice answers, I'm asking this question based on your article in 2019 in view of the judgment of the ICJ, of which the starting point was to establish if you were aware of that judgment of the ICJ when you were writing this article.
Absolutely.
If we can agree on that.
And I would suggest to you, just in very broad terms, that my general record in regard to writings on Israel-Palestine, and I don't think that is at all different from that article, is that I accept international law and I seek to give effect to international law in everything I've written in relation to Israel-Palestine, to defend the rights.
Professor Bilchis, you wanted me to give guidance. You have started giving an answer before I could say anything. Well, one, I thought that at least the question that had been asked to you was simply limited to whether at the time of writing the article you were aware of the judgment, which didn't seem to me should create any problem. But to the extent that there might be another question that you might be uncomfortable responding to without guidance, then one could take it from there. But the one about whether you were aware or not didn't seem me to be problematic.
Absolutely. As someone writing in the area, Chief Justice, I'm very aware of that judgment, and I would suggest to you that the article is in fact completely in accordance with that judgment by highlighting the various injustices in relation to the military occupation of occupied Palestinian territory in that article that I seek to draw attention to.
Yeah. Lastly on this, but if you don't want to, if you are not comfortable to answer, you can say so. The immediate impression in the article you wrote in 2019 is that, in your view, Israel is not a colonial settler. That is the view that I make. Is that fair?
To answer your question would be to wade into a highly contested engagement with issues of history and politics, which I think would be inappropriate for me as a sitting constitutional court judge to answer. I would just make the point that my record in this regard is to, one, defend the role of international law and try and ensure that it is given effect to. Two, to defend the rights of human rights of Israelis and Palestinians, and to try and utilize the South African experience to try and understand how one brings people together from very, very, very different histories and narratives to find some kind of resolution and negotiated settlement. That has been the impetus of my work in that area, and I would suggest to you my work has tried to give effect to the values of our Constitution and broaden that in international.
Too far, Professor Pilchis, if you say you are uncomfortable. If you go too far, you may be opening yourself up for further questions.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Yeah, this is the last third question. It's two. It's us that were taking long. This is a third question.
I want to make a follow-up on the question before you go to the third one.
The one that is uncomfortable to answer?
Yeah.
And then he will say if he's uncomfortable with your one too.
No, I'm just saying the question is based on the article he wrote.
Yeah.
And we're saying to him, we're putting it to him, that it will be our interpretation that you are saying Israel is not a colonial occupier. And if he says, I'm not going to comment on that, that remains our opinion and it will be raised in deliberations.
Well, maybe what we should do is excuse the candidate briefly and let's talk among ourselves. Is it fine? Let's just do that before we proceed. You'll be called back, Professor Pilchis, and will the media also please excuse themselves? And other people. Welcome back, Prof.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you. We have had a discussion, and the position is that you are being asked questions about a view you expressed some time back, and not as a judge. And clarification is being sought so that it can be determined how, what weight should be attached to that view for if any, for purposes of deliberations. And it's fair that you be given an opportunity to clarify. So, but if if you are not comfortable to answer, you won't be forced to answer. But the commissioners who may have sought clarification would then deal with the matter without the benefit of your clarification. Okay, all right, thank you. Now, Commissioner Malema, you wanted to follow up, or you wanted that question. That's when we excused the candidates. I think I must give you a chance to ask your question.
No, Chief Justice, I was not asking a question. I was just repeating what Commissioner Nonchesi said, and he
okay.
said
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable responding to that. So I was saying to him,
Yes.
if that is the stance, it means in the deliberations,
Yeah.
I will be allowed to express that view as a correct view because you didn't put a counter argument or seek to clarify it.
Yes.
Thanks.
No, thank you, Commissioner Malema. Just to make sure that we are on the same page, Commissioner Nojesi, do you want to put that question again to the candidate so that he can then now answer if he is comfortable or to answer, but also knowing what the consequences will be if he doesn't answer, namely that commissioners would look at the matter, consider the matter without the benefit of his clarification.
Thank you, CJ. What I was saying to you, Prof, is this. The total impression of that article is that you suggest that Israel is not a colonial settler in Palestine. I mean, it's not an occupying state. That is the total sum of what one gets.
As I've mentioned, I do not want to wade into a matter that is of deep controversy at the moment in the South African community. I would hope people who are Zionist or anti-Zionist or post-Zionist would have faith in me to address issues if they ever come before the Constitutional Court in an impartial manner. I would suggest to you the only point I'd like to make in relation to the article is that when I brought a delegation from Myanmar, I engaged with some of the senior members of the ANC who negotiated South Africa's settlement. And they said to me, despite not seeing any justice in what the Nationalist Party had to say, they tried to think themselves into the perspective of those who they had to negotiate with and tried to understand what is the deepest fears they have and how can we find a way through that. And I would suggest to you that my work, and that article in particular, is an attempt to say where there are deep divisions, contesting narratives, which are really landing up in an absolutely horrific situation we all watch at the moment, an Armageddon. How can we find a way through? How can we listen to each other and our different stories that we have around Israel and Palestine to find a way that the people of that area can share the land and share a future together? That's what I've sought to do. I've tried to be a peace builder in my work. I've tried to engage with peace in Colombia, which is a place which...
Sorry, Prof, you have answered my question.
Thank you.
CJ, I think I should end here.
Sorry, Commissioner Nojesi.
I think in view of time, I must stop here. Other commissioner will follow. Thank you.
Just a follow-up, CJ.
Okay, thank you.
CJ, follow-up.
Oh, Commissioner Malema?
Yeah, mine is very simple, Prof. Do you still stand by that article?
Mr. Malema, I'm not sure I would write every single phrase in the way I did. I shift my own views as well. But in large part, the necessity to find a way through, to understand the two very divergent and competing narratives, and to find a way for the two peoples to listen to each other and to live together in peace and dignity with respect for self-determination and international law, those are all things I would still stand by.
Prof, do you still stand by that article? Because you can't have it both. It's either you say there are parts of the article that, given the new information exposed to me, I will rather not keep in that article. So if you stand by it, just say so. So when I leave here, I know Prof still stands by that, or there are these other parts which, with more information and hindsight, is no longer standing with those.
Commissioner, I
opinions.
stand by the thrust of the article, as I've said to you. I think there are changed. We have seen differences over the last 5 years. We have also seen there are currently, and it's not right for me to express an opinion about proceedings before the International Court of Justice at the moment on a number of questions. And as I said, as someone deeply committed to international law, I would also see myself as bound to shift my views if the International Court of Justice finds in certain ways that require me to shift my view. But as I say, I'm not able to express my view on those things. That's inappropriate for a judge sitting in the Constitutional Court at the moment to express views on proceedings currently in an international court, and those may have caused some change to some elements of the article. But the thrust for need for finding a way through to peace, I stand by.
Sorry, Chief Justice. Sorry to interrupt, but Professor Bilchis, when I first raised my hand 3 hands ago, I wanted to ask you a question about contract, but I'm now going to ask you a question about this thing that's being debated. The reason is because, I always watch candidates here before the JSC. They are asked a relatively inane, mundane question. They complicate their lives, by appearing to be defensive or evasive, etc. Now, I'm afraid that is the impression I'm getting around this issue. And, and it's not a complicated question. You wrote an article and you said you don't buy the story of apartheid, you don't buy the story of colonialism, right? That's fine. We can have debates about that, and apartheid is an international legal issue. And occupation is also an international legal issue. We do need the views of our top judges in the Constitutional Court on these questions, because South Africa is engaged in the international space, and it has been engaged since 1994. It can't avoid it. So this idea that you say, well, there are certain things have moved along.